The bakery smelled of fresh vanilla and warm cinnamon, the kind of scent that made everyone's heart soften for a moment. The bell above the door jingled gently as a man in a faded blue shirt walked in. His shirt was ironed but looked old, its collar slightly worn from too many washes. He clutched the hand of a little girl, no more than 7 years old, who had 2 pigtails bouncing with each step and eyes that lit up like fireflies. She carried with her the unmistakable energy of excitement, the kind of joy only a child feels when dreaming of their own birthday celebration. They walked up to the counter where a clerk smiled politely. The man cleared his throat softly. "Good afternoon," he said in a voice that carried both warmth and fatigue. "I had placed an order for a small birthday cake under the name Daniel Harris." The clerk checked the list and nodded. "Yes, sir. It's ready. A chocolate cake with pink frosting and daisies on top, correct?" The little girl clapped her hands, eyes widening as she pictured it. "Daddy, that's mine," she whispered loudly, tugging at his arm. Daniel smiled faintly at her excitement, but the crease between his brows deepened as he reached into his back pocket. He pulled out a worn leather wallet, flipping through a few crumpled bills. His hands trembled slightly as he counted once, twice, then a third time. The clerk announced the price, and in that moment his smile faltered. He was short, not by much, just a few dollars, but enough to make the purchase impossible. His daughter's bright face looked up at him with eager expectation. Daniel's heart ached. He leaned closer to the clerk, lowering his voice so his daughter wouldn't hear. "I'm so sorry. I can't take it today. Things are a little tight. Could you please cancel the order?" His voice cracked despite his attempt to stay composed. The clerk hesitated, glancing at the little girl who was now peeking over the counter, trying to see her cake. Daniel forced a smile at her, pretending everything was fine, but inside he felt the weight of failure press against his chest. He had worked double shifts at the factory, taken odd jobs, and stretched every dollar, but rent, bills, and school supplies had drained what little he had left. A birthday cake had seemed possible when he placed the order 2 weeks ago, but reality had caught up too quickly. Unbeknownst to him, a woman standing in the corner of the bakery had witnessed the entire exchange. She was dressed simply, in jeans and a cream sweater, her hair pulled back neatly. No one in the room recognized her as Elizabeth Carter, the CEO of one of the largest companies in the city. She had stepped into the bakery quietly that afternoon, drawn by nostalgia. Her grandmother had once brought her here every Sunday after church. Now, despite her busy schedule, she still stopped by whenever she could for a slice of carrot cake that reminded her of simpler times. Elizabeth's eyes lingered on the man and his daughter. She was a woman used to boardrooms, decisions, and power plays. But what she saw now was something entirely different. A father's quiet desperation hidden beneath a brave smile, and a little girl's innocent hope. She felt her chest tighten. Memories surfaced of her own childhood. Her father had passed away when she was very young, leaving her mother to raise her and her siblings alone. There had been birthdays where money was too tight, moments when her mother's eyes looked just like this man's. Tired but determined to protect her children from disappointment. Without thinking twice, Elizabeth approached the counter. "Excuse me," she said gently, her voice carrying a warmth that caught Daniel's attention. "I couldn't help overhearing. Would it be all right if I paid for the cake?" Daniel's face turned crimson. He immediately shook his head. "No, ma'am. That's very kind but unnecessary. We'll manage." The little girl looked up at the stranger curiously, her small voice breaking in. "But it's my birthday," she whispered, almost as if she feared admitting it out loud would make it disappear. Elizabeth knelt so she was eye level with the child. "Well, then it seems we can't let a birthday go by without cake, can we?" she said with a smile. The girl giggled, her shyness melting away. Daniel felt torn between pride and gratitude. He had worked hard never to rely on charity, never to let anyone think he couldn't provide for his daughter. But in that moment, looking at her hopeful face, his resistance crumbled. He nodded slowly. "Thank you," he said softly, his voice thick. "I don't know how to repay you." Elizabeth simply smiled. "You don't need to. Consider it a gift from one parent to another." She handed her card to the clerk, who processed the payment quickly. The cake box appeared on the counter, tied neatly with a pink ribbon. The little girl's eyes sparkled as she hugged it to her chest like treasure. "Thank you, lady," she said, beaming. Daniel's eyes welled with tears, but he blinked them away, trying not to show weakness in front of his daughter. "You don't know what this means," he whispered to Elizabeth. Elizabeth tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "Actually, I think I do." She turned to leave, but something made her pause. She looked back at Daniel, at the wariness in his eyes, and made a decision. "What's your name?" she asked. "Daniel," he replied hesitantly. "Well, Daniel," she said. "I'm Elizabeth. I think people like you deserve more than just scraped-together birthdays. Would you mind if we spoke again sometime? I might have an opportunity that could help." Daniel frowned, unsure what she meant. But he nodded politely, exchanging contact information almost as an afterthought. To him, she was just a kind stranger doing a good deed. He had no idea who she really was. That evening, as his daughter blew out the candles on her cake in their small apartment, her laughter echoing through the walls, Daniel felt an unfamiliar flicker of hope. A week later, his phone rang. It was Elizabeth. She invited him to her office downtown, assuring him it was nothing formal. Nervous but curious, he went. To his shock, he discovered her true identity. The woman who had bought his daughter's cake was one of the most powerful executives in the city. She explained that her company had been looking for someone with strong mechanical skills for their manufacturing department. She had spoken with people, reviewed his background, and learned he had years of factory experience. "I believe in people who fight for their families," she told him simply. "I'd like to offer you a position. Good pay, benefits, stability." Daniel sat in stunned silence, his hands trembling. Why me?" Elizabeth's smile was soft but firm. "Because sometimes people just need a chance. And because your daughter deserves a father who doesn't have to choose between rent and a birthday cake." He accepted, his gratitude overwhelming. From that day forward, his life began to change. Bills were no longer a looming threat, and his daughter thrived, her laughter freer than ever. Word of the story eventually spread. First among employees, then across the city. People were moved not only by the act of kindness in the bakery, but also by the transformation that followed. A simple gesture had opened a door to a new life. Elizabeth never sought recognition. For her, it wasn't about headlines or public praise. It was about remembering where she had come from, about honoring her own mother's struggles, and about ensuring that no child had to feel forgotten on their birthday. As years passed, Daniel's daughter grew older, but she never forgot that cake. Every year on her birthday, she would ask her father to tell the story again. The story of the stranger who saw them in a bakery and changed their lives forever. And Daniel would smile, his voice steady with pride as he said, "It all started with a cake we almost didn't bring home." What had begun as a moment of quiet shame became the foundation of a new beginning, a reminder that sometimes, kindness from one person can rewrite the entire future of another.